First of all, I think the anchoring experience and the time lugging dinosaur-like equipment to Columbus City Council meetings and making you question your existence, proved to be very beneficial, even if I didn't know it at the time. I think it teaches you how to put together, how to tell a story, and hopefully in a concise way. I think that it helps you get news judgment. I think it sort of teaches you the ropes of different things that people have to go through in order to make a newscast successful. Unfortunately, most of ours in Columbus were not successful. But the ones in Flint were. And I think that in terms of preparation for the role at ESPN, that the repetitions that I got in Columbus and in Flint were extraordinarily beneficial. I was only in Flint for 16 months, but I still worked for the best people I've ever worked for in television. And there were older people there, unlike Columbus, where we were all, it was a hodgepodge, and there was a different news director every month, and it was just a disaster. And although not a total disaster, I met my wife in Columbus, which has been the great thing. But in terms of television in Flint, there were older guys there. A guy who'd been news director for a long time, was a real young, energetic guy, still the best boss I've ever had. There was the proverbial dean of local sportscasters who was there, who'd been in Flint 25 years, who was a great example to follow, because you could kind of see, even if you didn't really fit their style or fit his style, you kind of saw how it was done. You saw a certain maturity and a certain methodology about going about your work. And so I think those things were extraordinarily beneficial in terms of the studio side and developing a comfort and a presence on camera that I think is huge. I mean, every time, before I do any show, I try to remember these things. I've sort of made an alliteration thing out of it so that I can better remember it as I get older. But I always say I want to have poise, I want to have presence, I want to have personality, and I want to have preparation. And that last P is more important than any of them. If you want to be prepared when you go on the air. There is a lot of spontaneity on the shows that I do. We don't use a teleprompter. We don't write a script. We kind of follow an outline, and we have conversations. We don't want it to be each guy takes 30 seconds, stares into the camera, and delivers a soliloquy. So from that standpoint, you don't get to just read the teleprompter the way you do in Sports Center, which we write all the stuff ourselves in Sports Center, or in local news, where you write it all out, think about it ahead of time, and it comes up on the glass and you do it. And there's an art form to that. I mean, it's not easy to be good at that. But I think that what those roles helped me more than the things that I do now is it helped me deliver or develop, I should say, a presence and a comfort on camera, I hope. Anyway, although that's probably for you as viewers to judge rather than me. That hopefully translates to the people at home. I mean, you want them to be comfortable with you. You want them to feel like when you're watching Mark Lewimere, watching College Game Day basketball, and say, we want you to feel like that you're involved in the conversation with us. I mean, that's what we want. That's the goal. In terms of play-by-play, I'm still growing there. I'll be the first to admit that. I didn't have as much experience doing it, very little experience, to be honest. I wanted to do it. They let me do some. And hopefully I'm getting better. And how I'm trying to get better now is listen to the guys who I think are great. We got a ton of guys who are, Musburger's a legend, obviously. Schulman's unbelievable. My personal preference, I don't know if preference is the right word, but the guy who I think is the gold standard is Sean McDonough. The way he weaves his analyst in and out, the way he tells stories and still keeps the flow of the game going is stunning. Brad Nessler is unbelievably good. And I could go on. Joe Tessitore, all these guys are great. And these guys have a lot more experience. So I try to learn from them without copying them, if that makes any sense. Because you can't copy them. People used to call me and ask me about SportsCenter back when Dan Patrick worked at the network. I said, watch Dan do SportsCenter. Watch how he delivers. Watch how he reads. Watch where he pauses. Notice how he finishes sentences. Just don't say "enfuego." I said, try to be like Dan. Just don't say "enfuego." And I think that's what you can learn, and that's what I've tried to learn in terms of developing as a play-by-play guy.